Death in the Hills. I'm Rebecca Lieb.
I'm Jason Horton.
And this is Ghost Town.
How Charemon Jonovich died isn't a mystery. Why she died is another story. March 15th, 1999, Charemon Jonovich was killed by a gunshot to the head in the Hollywood home of actor Robert Pastorelli, most known for playing Eldon the house painter on the TV show Murphy Brown.
A Murphy Brown murder. Damn.
I think the pronunciation is Charemon Jonovich. I couldn't find anything else to say anything different.
Okay.
But it's an interesting name, so we're going to go with Charemon Jonovich. She was Robert Pastorelli's 25-year-old girlfriend. They lived together in the Hollywood Hills, and they had a heated argument. And she, according to Robert Pastorelli, pulled out a gun and killed herself. Pastorelli cooperated with the authorities, and the coroner ruled her death as undetermined.
Okay.
But that would eventually change.
Great.
So a little bit about Robert Pastorelli, and I've never watched Murphy Brown, familiar with it, and I'm familiar with that character, and I knew that there was, I don't want to call it scandal with him, but never watching the show. You just know it's like, oh, I know there's one character on there that had, real life scandal. I didn't know to what extent. I think I knew that he had issues with drugs, but that's as far as I knew.
I watched the show with my grandmother growing up. Had no idea that this was anywhere on the radar, even close, but it's such a huge show. There was a reboot. I think it's definitely still on our cultural landscape and present, and no idea. Intrigued.
Where I'm going to take you, the royal you.
And me, though, right?
And you can come along for the ride. Okay. I'm going to take you down a little road of also conspiracy that is unfounded, unvetted, and probably untrue, but interesting enough to mention. So be prepared for that at the end.
Ooh, that sounds like my bread and butter. That's just fun.
Robert Pastorelli played Eldon Bernecki on Murphy Brown. He was the house painter for Murphy Brown, played by Candice Bergen. And he never got his work done. He was perpetually house painting because it wasn't up to his standard, and he would dole out advice. So it was almost like a major character, but also sort of like a sidekick in a sense, from what I gather, and kind of from what I remember culturally. And he was on Murphy Brown from 1988 to 1994, and he left the show when the series creator, Diane English, left. He left a successful show.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's also, he probably was like, I would like to be the lead, or I would like to take my career to the next level. Understandable.
Yeah.
He told Parade magazine, the fourth and fifth years were different. It stopped being fun, so I knew I had to move on. If I stayed, it would only be for the money, and that's not what acting is all about.
But the money's pretty good.
So from there, he continued to work. He was the lead in a sitcom, Double Rush, that lasted for one season in 1995. I believe Diane English also was part of that show and kind of championed him to be the lead. He played a police psychologist on the ABC series Cracker in 1997, 1998. But let's go to 1999 and the death and mysterious death of Charemon Jonovich. So like I said, they were in an argument. She pulled out a gun and shot herself in the head, according to Robert. And he, when the police came, he was distraught and she was insanely jealous, according to Robert.
Of course, according to him.
Is it possible that she was jealous? Maybe, sure. But is it possible that it's two-sided and not just one-sided?
Yeah, who lived to tell their tale?
Is age a huge factor? I mean, I don't know. She's 25, he's 45. Maybe they're on different wavelengths, maybe not. Now, they had a 1-year-old daughter who was sound asleep in another bedroom.
God.
He told police that while they were arguing, she pointed the gun at herself, pulled the trigger, not knowing it was loaded. And according to Pastorelli's friends, and he got a lot of goodwill and in the Hollywood community and the people he knew, they were like, poor Robert. And that's fine. I mean, that's fine at that point to feel any way you want to feel, no matter what you think. But he kind of left that situation like essentially poor Robert.
Yeah.
And he was so distraught. He spent the next year kind of absentee from the biz and just spent time with his daughter. And I've seen some other things where he didn't believe it was loaded. So, go ahead, do it, knowing it's not loaded. That's another situation. And I'm sure it was a very heated thing. And I don't know what drugs may have been involved because he had a previous history with drug addiction before he really hit his stride as an actor, like in his 20s. And I don't know if that came back into play at that point. We know it comes back into play a little later. And the conspiracy that I'm going to, like I promised I would deliver.
You promised me.
I promised.
And the royal they.
And the royal you, the royal us, the royal listeners.
The royal masses, that's you guys.
Who else was in that apartment when this happened? Might not be what you think.
Not Murphy Brown.
Not Murphy Brown. It's also not Glenn Close.
That was my second guess.
Well, that's not a bad guess, but hold on for that. Because Glenn Close is part of this story.
Okay.
That's what made this so interesting to me. The timeline was very interesting. So Robert Pastorelli actually had history with losing another girlfriend in 1990 to AIDS. She had addiction issues.
Yeah. And
I'm assuming if they were together, I don't want to say he definitely did, but it's possible that he also they were using it together.
Yeah.
And tragically died of AIDS in 1990, which was pretty much in the throes of him working at Murphy Brown.
Oh, my God.
Bob is one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. Everyone feels absolutely horrible about this, said one staffer who worked on Murphy Brown. People liked him. People championed him. Like I said, people were always gunning for him. We're going to take a break. Hi, hello, how are you?
Hello.
How are you doing? You can't see it, but Rebecca got her hair did.
Yes, it was did. Past tense. I drove across the city, and now I'm back here.
Normally, she's just a bunhead. She's just
true.
from the TV show Bunheads.
I like a high top bun. You guys don't care about that, but Jason gets to look at it all the time. But I'm a new woman, and this is the same old podcast. So, again, neither here nor there to you.
Well, we always want to say hello to everyone who's listening, and thank you, and hello to our same young and attractive government.
Hot as hell.
We look at headshots, old school 80s style, before we hire.
You guys, at my laundromat, all your headshots are in silver frames above my place of business. Couldn't be prouder.
We want to say hello to our mayors, Joshua Lambert.
Hello.
Ashley Matson.
Hello.
Dara Rosenzweig.
Hello.
And a brand new, hot off the presses.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Out of the frying pan, into the fire.
Woo! Why would they? I don't know.
Is that good or bad? I don't know. I hear fire and it sounds cool.
Yeah.
Brand spanking new mayor, James Harrington, the first or second or third. And to our governor.
Hell yeah.
Gold-plated
oh
headshots.
Oh my God. You're right above my best washing machine.
I think you say you're right above my bed. And I say good night to you every single night.
Good night.
Avian Noble. Thank you for being our government. Thank you for being patrons. Thank you for anyone else who is a patron.
Yes.
You can get bonus episodes, early access, no chit chat. You can just get the good stuff immediately, hardwired into your brain. Patreon.com/GhostTownPod.
Incredible. Where else can you get that? Don't answer that.
Anyone else's Patreon. Just anywhere else on the internet. But other than that, I don't know where. Let's go right back to Hollywood.
You want to dig back in?
I want to go right back into those Hollywood hills, the cautionary tales, Tinseltown casualties.
Bad parking, take a left on Beechwood. It's a one-way street. Be careful.
I looked up, of course, where this happened because that's my number one infatuation. It is in the Hollywood Hills. I would say west of Griffith Park, Hollywood Dell, all that up there.
Yeah. Around the reservoir.
Where the parking is difficult. The more difficult the parking
the richer
Yes.
the estates.
If you can, if your car can fall off a mountain,
yeah,
you're rich.
Absolutely. I will never get used to that driving up there. And I was a tour guide. I had to take vans of tourists up through the hills to look at Katy Perry's house or Brad Pitt's house. And first of all, you can never see the house. And second of all, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous just to have a giant van. Just
you can only fit 2 Miatas on the street at one time,
right.
Barely.
A Tesla and a half.
That's it.
Who lives like that?
Not us. Murphy Brown star Candice Bergen placed a call to Pastorelli, offer her condolences. So Pastorelli rushed to her side to try to administer first aid. I don't know what that would be. Realizing that he couldn't, he called 911 very quickly. Mm-hmm. And, based initially on what they saw there, they took it at face value. So according to the Los Angeles coroner's office, she apparently took her life and it's being investigated as a suicide. Pastorelli was quizzed by detectives.
Jesus.
A lot of these articles, I'll say, are tabloid in nature. Mm-hmm. Just think of those times, like extremely tabloid in nature, very sensational.
Yeah.
So I tried to weed through that as much as possible. Not easy to kind of just get information, which is not easy to get. And then the other things you get are more fringe information. So take it for what you will. Mm-hmm. And he was completely cooperative. There was no arrest and no indication that there will be, according to a police spokesperson. Maybe because, he's a celebrity. I'm going to go to the worst side of somebody investigating this mind. Mm-hmm. This guy's a 45-year-old successful actor. I've seen him on TV. Mm-hmm. He's got this 25-year-old girlfriend. You know how women are. Get very jealous, irrational. They don't know. Whatever the case may be. Does that happen? Sure, happens. Everything happens all the time, but I feel like this was softballed for him.
Yeah.
And as far as anyone knows, maybe it should have been softballed for him, but we'll find out that is not necessarily the case.
I think the power of a 90s sitcom star can't really be taken out of the equation, especially now, it's the late 90s. People are really like, it's like primetime TV. Like that's when I think about the power of a TV star, even though like maybe his place, if he were a working actor in the same capacity now, it might be different. Like there's so many shows, like it's just a different value that we place on this experience of watching TV, but just like, a big star. Whereas,
and there's also the lack of information being exchanged on the internet, where maybe a more reputable news outlet might talk about it, or people would talk on the internet. It's like, hey, yeah, that's my former roommate. That's my sister. Mm-hmm. And information is shared quicker, and that changes the dialogue for better or for worse, I guess, quicker than you're leaving it at the mercy of essentially the New York Post, the National Enquirer, People Magazine, like I mentioned. So it's mostly at their whim, unless you just have access to coroner's reports or you're doing your own independent investigative journalism.
And it's an easy formula, too, to take a parent suicide, to take, this couple with a large age gap, the success, and kind of put pieces together to make it suit whatever publication you're working at.
So I really looked high and low to find anyone that spoke about her and to be like, what's she like? What do you have to say about her? All I found was friends of the couple said Jonovich's action is a mystery because the couple seemed very happy and were both in love with their daughter, Gianna. So they have a child together, Gianna. After she died, he took a year off. He was starting to work again. Then he was working a lot with Glenn Close. Mm-hmm. And they were romantically linked together for a decent amount of time. Pretty soon after, probably in 1999, worked together doing some theater in 2001, 2002. So it was interesting just to see this guy's timeline. Is just very interesting.
Yeah.
Glenn Close has nothing to do with what happened, but it's just interesting to see this guy. I mean, he must have been pretty beloved, at least outwardly, and probably had his own demons, and he probably maybe wasn't. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to say, but it's interesting to see this person that a name that when I brought it up, did you know who? I mean, And I really didn't either. I mean, I kind of did only, and I've never watched it. It's only because I've maybe heard that this guy had issues with drugs, and that's all I remembered, which is sad, but it's all I remembered from it. But he seemed to sort of do okay in that sense. It's just interesting to be like, oh, and P.S. he started dating Glenn Close.
Yeah, it is an interesting footnote. It also has a strange I'll Be Gone in the Dark kind of flavor to it, with Michelle McNamara and kind of substance abuse and also kind of moving on really. Wait, who's the comedian's name that I'm thinking of who is married to her?
Patton Oswalt?
Patton Oswalt, yeah. And just the nature of grief, how much you contributed to someone's death, which, again, in this case, feels a lot more straightforward than obviously the Michelle McNamara case. But, yeah, kind of similar themes.
So this is where Robert Pastorelli's story comes to an end. I think word got out that the police were reinvestigating this case based, I think, maybe somebody looked at it and said, based on, I'll call it the staging of it and the circumstances, it seemed to be more than was mentioned before, at least. And I saw some things where they said he was a suspect and some that he was person of interest.
Okay.
Both of those things obviously were disturbing to him.
Yeah.
Whether it's because of guilt or just the weight of his life. He said bad car accident at 19 absolutely changed his whole life. And then he was a drug addiction. And then had one girlfriend die of AIDS in 1990. And I can't speak to that, but we can call it a direct result or we can call it coincidentally.
Oh, no.
But on March 8th, 2004, he was found dead at age 49 at his home in the Hollywood Hills from a morphine overdose.
Oh, God.
Intentional, not intentional, don't know. I saw some references it to being heroin, or at least they found heroin paraphernalia there. Either way, he died very soon after hearing, hey, listen, we need to talk to you about this again. Like, this is not over.
Oh, man. God.
And you can deduce from that
Yeah.
whatever you want. Is it because he was a guilty person, or is he just somebody who's like, this is too painful for me to deal with anymore, and my whole life, but also leaving 2 young children behind.
2?
Yeah, 2 young children. And what I found is interesting is his 2 daughters, Gianna Lee Pastorelli, that was born in 1988. That's with Charemon Jonovich, and Giannia Marie Pastorelli, born in 2000, with his then girlfriend J. Lee Carter.
What?
With his then girlfriend J. Lee Carter. Yeah. So
What?
So it's Gianna Lee Pastorelli and Giannia Marie. No, first one is Gianna Lee Pastorelli, and then Giannia Marie Pastorelli.
No, what the hell?
Born 2 years apart. He left 2 very young daughters behind. His last role was in the movie Be Cool, which was a sequel to Get Shorty that came out in 2005 after he died. This is from a message board, which is unfortunately the only way to get information. I'm going to get to the conspiracy. We're almost there.
I want it.
Somebody said, back in the 80s, early 90s, ran into Robert and Charemon in Santa Monica parking garage. Immediately got a bad feeling vibe about the pair. He looked like an East Coast lowlife, black leather, thigh-length, Gestapo-like jacket. And she looked literally like a shell-shocked, severely abused woman. Was less than surprised to read of her, quote, suicide less than a year later. Previous poster, Jennifer B., absolutely correct. Somebody else posted that the cops were closing in and about to charge him with her murder when he, quote, unquote, OD'd. Another unsubstantiated rumor was that he owed major bucks to drug dealers and was about to rat them out. Make of it what you will. Sad on all accounts. Could have just been an off day for both of them.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's interesting, too, when you see snapshots of people, like, out in the wild, and you're like, oh, like, I don't know, these people are just strangers. Or, like, you witness an interaction that is noticeable, and you're like, you deduce things about it right away. And I think that there's part of it where it's like, yeah, we're seeing this thing, it's in a vacuum, we don't know these people or the context, but I also think there's something with our own intuition around body language and around, other human beings. And I think there's something to that, too. So
there could have been also, they could have been, both, with dealing with their substance abuse issues. Can't say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you could make a very short leap and think that, and also just being in a relationship is tough. anywhere, whether it's in Hollywood or not.
Definitely.
And age difference, sometimes it makes a difference. Sometimes it does. It's, who knows? And that might just be a cocktail for disaster or maybe not.
Yeah.
Now, what you've been waiting for. This is from a website called Foxella.
Ooh,
I don't know what
Foxella.
the deal with it is, but I will say this person has repeated this information on many different sites, and they seem to be sites that are in gossip, but more kind of almost like a burn book or like, you know, that kind of thing where it's like a whistleblower type thing. Not like, hey, you know, check out TMZ type thing. More like, hey, listen, I'm an insider.
Yeah.
Here's information.
I'm going to eviscerate this person. Read on.
And they have a vendetta against Robert.
Incredible.
Everyone knew he did it, but kept giving him work. The cover-up. Back in the day, there was a murderer. It involved an actor who was probably B-list at the time. Everyone knew him. Solid character actor. Everyone knew he did it, but kept giving him work. Not as much, but enough to keep him going. The actor ended up killing himself right before the police were going to arrest him again after new evidence was given to them. What was the new evidence? A witness to the murder.
Oh.
One who had stayed silent for several years about the murder because the person thought they would be charged too.
Yeah, okay.
For years after the murder, the witness had huge drinking and drug issues because of it. The stress was killing them, so they finally went to the police. How had this person been a witness? She had been there the night of the killing having sex with the actor. Who was the witness? A B-plus list actress who is more famous than, but all of you know, all of you. Murderer, Robert Pastorelli. Victim, Charemon Jonovich. B-list actress, Natasha Lyonne.
What? Natasha Lyonne.
Now, this is unvetted, alleged. I tried to corroborate this as best I could. I went out of my way to try to make this connection, and I like Natasha Lyonne. I do. I think she's a good actor.
I think she's great. I think she's really, really great.
Cool person. She liked one of my tweets once, and that's enough to...
You dated her. She's your ex now.
Basically, current. We say current. We say current.
Fair.
You don't understand.
I don't.
I like her, and I think that she has had her issues.
Yeah, she was like, talk about addiction issues.
Huge issues. You know, she was sued by Michael Rappaport. I guess he was renting his place, and she destroyed it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
You know, she had huge issues. I mean, she was sick with hepatitis. She had open heart surgery. I mean, could have been very easily been a casualty of a lot of things, and she has overcome.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I can't speak to every single thing she's done, but I want to say that this is unvetted, unsubstantiated, based on nothing. All I can say is that whether it's her or somebody else or thinking somebody's there, is that a reason that two people might get into an argument?
Yeah.
She comes home and she's like, what's going on here?
Why are you having sex with Natasha Lyonne from But I'm a Cheerleader?
Yeah. And American Pie.
Yeah. And Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, that's not out yet. So you'd be...
I'd be seeing into the future?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be looking into my daughter Gianna or Giannina.
She calls her agent. She's like, there's a show coming out in a couple of years called Orange is the New Black.
Quick.
I need to be on it.
That makes sense. And if you would have said, like, that is a name that feels like it makes sense in this context. There's a lot of names where you would have said, and I've been like, that's bullshit.
It's not, it's not like I'm saying it's a CIA or it's, like the ghost of Florence Nightingale. Like, it's not like a weird thing. It's somebody that, could you see them together age-wise, Hollywood-wise, and the fact that they both had issues with substance abuse? That's definitely possible.
Yeah.
They could have had a relationship and this also not be true.
Yeah.
All those things. I just want to put that out there. They did work on a movie together in 1998.
Whoa.
So now we're just a year later called Modern Vampires. And that's the only connection I made.
I mean, but it's like, it's not a not perceptive one because I think, you're in pre-production, you're meeting these people. Working with someone is an intense situation.
And this person has put this out on many different websites, but again, I could not corroborate it anywhere. I will also say I want to speak highly of Natasha Lyonne. I don't want to make it seem like this is trying to drag this person. I know somebody very close with somebody that I trust what they have to say about somebody. Somebody who, one time was, I'd say a Hollywood insider of some sorts. She hung out with Natasha Lyonne at some point and said how cool she was and what a nice person she was. And, despite all those other things, and this is only one, independent thing, but I just wanted to end it with something positive about Natasha Lyonne because no one's going to know, no one's going to care. And the thing is, the fact that he died, you might say like, why isn't this more widely reported? Also, it's what now? How long ago are we at now? Almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's not there, and he's dead. So are we going to cross-examine? What are we going to? There's really nothing to really do about it except maybe change the fact that her cause of death was homicide. That's really all you can do. I'm sure parents could go after his estate, but I think that all went to the daughter, who's now 2. So there's really a limit to what you can do. So even if this was true, it would not come out.
Yeah.
I don't like talking about things. I don't like doing like rumor things. I really don't. Like, I just think it's like, listen, people do things, they make leaps and stretches.
Interesting. It's interesting.
It's a connection. Yeah.
People are here. And if we're sharing Natasha Lyonne stories, I also have a couple. I worked on a show with her on this game show, and she was a guest maybe 3 or 4 times. And a lot of celebrities are not happy to be there. They're too drunk or whatever. Always so polite, wonderful. Will talk specifically to the not famous person and make them feel comfortable and at home, and like talk to everyone like they're human beings, which again, you would expect, but is not always true. Incredible. And so I went to Rob Delaney's stand-up special, his most recent one, and he talks about her, and he talks about her chain smoking and being so supportive of his intervention and being like the guiding light to his intervention. So again, this person, I think we're all on the same page. Natasha Lyonne is great. She's somehow woven into this mythology of this very sad story. That doesn't mean that she was there at all. It doesn't mean she wasn't there. Hard to say. Whatever happens, rebound with Glenn Close.